Are you thinking of running higher power from your home radio station? I know there's a lot of feeling in some areas about high power and whether you should really be running high power at all. But I'm directing this video to those that have got a, say, 100-watt ham radio station and they're thinking of adding an amplifier. Should they do it? And if they do it, what's the difference going to be? And what precautions should they take and what things should they consider? So what is high power? Well, I think generally speaking, most transceivers these days are capable of running 100 watts. There's a lot of low power transceivers around as well, QRP operation. But I think the average amateur who operates on the HF bands probably ends up with around about 100 watts. And that's the sort of industry standard of power, 100 watts. But of course, if you've got a full license, you can actually run a lot more. In the UK here, we've recently had the licence conditions changed and you can run 1000 watts. Now, that 1000 watts is not measured at the amplifier, it's measured at the antenna. So you could argue that if you've got a 2 or, so let's say you've got a 3 dB loss on your feed line to the antenna itself. Let's say you've got a, let's say you've got a Yagi beam down the garden and you've got a, 100 feet, 30 or 40 metres of coax, and you reckon you're losing around about 2, nearly 3 dB. Well, if you're losing, let's say you're losing 3 dB, which is quite a lot actually, but suppose we're talking about 10 metres, it's possible then, isn't it? You're losing 3 dB. It means to say that you could actually run a 2000 watt amplifier, because 2000 watts into your 3 dB loss feeder will actually result in just 1000 watts at the antenna. So you could legally run 2000 watts if you've got that loss. It's rather a lot of power, isn't it? Let's be more realistic, because there's not many 2000 watt amplifiers about and it's really questionable whether it's worth having. But if you've got 100 watts and you add an amplifier, it's one of the big differences that the guy at the other end will notice. I mean, you could spend a lot of money on a new transceiver and basically that new transceiver is going to have lots of bells and whistles. It's going to be particularly aimed at the receiver side because that's where a lot of improvements take place, and the convenience and the memories and all the other bits and pieces and the readouts and etc. But the guy at the other end probably won't know whether your transceiver cost £1,000 or £5,000, assuming you're running the same power. But an amplifier, it's the one thing that you can add to your station where the guy at the other end will immediately notice the difference. Let's say that you have your 100 watt transceiver and you've got an amplifier, and that amplifier raises your power to the feed line to 500 watts. That means to say you've got over 1 S-point improvement in signal. Now, you could argue what is an S-point, and perhaps I'll do another video on that. Basically, if you're as old as I am, you reckon that 6 dB is basically 1 S-point. If you double your power, you have a 3 dB gain, and if you double it again you have a 6 dB gain because they're additional. So if you go from 100 to 400 watts, for example, you can have a 6 dB gain, and that will be noticeably different to the guy at the far end. If you have a 500 watt amplifier instead of a 400 watt amplifier, the difference will be so small that it's hardly worth the effort. But of course we can go up to 1000 watts. So let's take a look at what you should consider when you're running this sort of power. Well, the first thing you need to consider, of course, is whether your station setup will handle that sort of power. Because when you start to run higher power, like 400 or 500 watts, you may find that your coax cable, your coax connections, the sort of wrapped round connections you made that worked with 100 watts won't work with much higher power, because believe me, as soon as you run higher power, the weak points in your aerial system, the mechanical connections, plugs, the way the plugs are connected, the way the plugs are soldered on, etc., etc., all that is tested quite severely as soon as you raise the power to 400 or 500 watts, let alone going up to the sort of 1000 watt level. So you do need to consider, is your station set up okay for high power? Now, as a side issue, what about coax cable? Well, actually, I have used RG58 cable for a long time. I have got heavier duty cable for some of the antennas, but I have run 500 watts through RG58 without any problems at all, provided that the connectors are properly made. Now, some may hold their hands up in shock horror running 500 watts through RG58. Well, actually, it may surprise you that it will take it. It's only the connectors that will suffer. But really and truly, if you are going to run higher power, it does make sense to get some heavier duty coax, and certainly look at all the station connections you've got, the interconnections, the SWR meters. All the SWR meters handle the power you're going to run. Have you put the connectors on correctly? What's the antenna connection like outside? Because if there's any weak link, these will break down, believe me. So what transceiver are you running? If you're running a 100 watt transceiver, what power input does the amplifier need? Most HF amplifiers require around about 50 or 60 watts input. But if you switch your amplifier on and forget to reduce your power, does it damage your amplifier, or is the amplifier protected? And some of the solid state smaller amplifiers that give you 200 or 300 watts out, which on paper seems to make sense, do remember that they probably only require 10 or 12 watts, and they could easily be damaged if you overdrive them. So you do need to have some precaution in the shack or in your head to remind you that you've got to reduce your power in order to operate the amplifier. I use the Yaesu FT710, and you can on that transceiver reduce the power across all modes, but you've got to remember to do it. Now, some amplifiers are protected. My amplifier, which I'll explain in a minute, is fully protected. I've often overdriven it, so it just shows you that even if you think you're not going to forget, you can sometimes forget. So check that out. Summertime is a great time to check your antennas and so make sure that they're okay and handle this higher power if you're going to go for an amplifier. And if you've got a particular method you use to avoid overdriving the amplifier, let us know below this video. Put a comment below this video so others can draw from your experience. Now we come to the thorny question, solid state or valve amplifier. Well, let's deal with solid state first of all. The advantage of solid state is that it's very immediate. As soon as you switch on the amplifier, it's ready to use. There's no warm-up time at all. And there's no band switching. It will tend to band switch itself. And most amplifiers have the facility of sensing what particular band you're on, so band switching is not really needed. And they're also pretty light and pretty compact, so there's a lot going for them. And they also work into a VSWR of below 2 to 1. They tend to be well protected, both in terms of outputs, VSWR, and also the more expensive ones in terms of overdriving, but not all of them are protected. So it's an easy way to get on the air, and you just have to be aware of the fact that you could overdrive it. But if you stick to a brand name, some of the better known brands, then you shouldn't have any problem. Some of the cheaper solid state amplifiers aren't so well protected, and you do take a bit of a chance. But if you buy, as I say, if you buy a brand name, this should be okay. So what about valve amplifiers? Well, the disadvantages of a valve amplifier, it takes about 3 or 4 minutes for it to warm up before you can use it. it's not immediate. So if there's some DX there, you can have the frustrating time of hearing everybody else work it, but you can't work it because you can't get your amplifier on. And they tend to be fairly heavy, and they tend to be fairly large, and they tend to be fairly warm because they get quite hot. So you need to make sure the amplifier is ventilated. But the big advantage of a valve amplifier is that it effectively has a built-in antenna matching unit. It has a pi network, 2 controls, tuning and loading. It does mean to say that as you change bands, you've got to reset those controls to match your antenna. But it's not too much of a problem to make a note of the settings so that they're easily repeatable. It does mean to say, of course, that if you've got a modest VSWR, perhaps you've got a G5RV or a half-size G5 or a half-size G5RV, then it will match it okay, no problems. Even 3-to-1 VSWR, it matches okay because effectively it's got a built-in matching network. Another disadvantage of valves is that the valves will eventually need to be replaced. But on the positive side, they're dead easy to replace. You just take the top off, unplug them and put a new pair in, or one, whichever the case may be. That's not too much of a disadvantage. It does cost a bit of money. But in general, a valve amplifier is more robust. It tends to be fairly well protected itself in the way it's designed. And if you buy a branded one, you shouldn't have any problems. So it's really a question of which is best, and there's no real answer. If you've got a solid state amplifier and you want to work into a VSWR that starts to cause it problems, then you've got to have an antenna matching unit. And as soon as you put an antenna matching unit in circuit, it means to say something else to adjust, which means to say that it's not instant band changing. So really and truly, if you've got some resonant antennas, then the solid state is very fast. If you haven't got resonant antennas or they need matching, then it's not so fast. And it's really a question of you assessing what your requirements are and then judging for yourself which is the best option. I still like valve amplifiers. In fact, I've got an ACOM amplifier. It's rated at 700 watts output. It's got a built-in antenna matching unit effectively because it's got a pi network, and that will quite happily and that will quite happily deliver power into a 3-to-1 or even a 4-to-1 VSWR, something that the solid state amplifier wouldn't do. And I do like the idea of high voltage and low current, whereas a solid state amplifier tends to be low voltage, high current. But both work equally well in given circumstances. So there we are. So I hope that's given you some food for thought, some advice, things to consider before you make a purchase. And I think one thing you need to remember is that an amplifier is a bit of an investment. It's not a fashionable item. It should go on for ages, rather like a power supply. You buy a power supply and you want it to be there all the time, and generally speaking it is. And an amplifier, same thing. You want it to be there when you want it. It's not fashionable. It's not going to change dramatically. All it does is amplifies a signal. It's not like your transceiver where all sorts of gizmos come along and all sorts of accessories and all sorts of updates and so forth take place. An amplifier is an amplifier. So it pays to consider it carefully. Make sure that you've taken all the precautions of installing it in the station, and then enjoy the benefit. So there we are. And of course we stock a wide range of amplifiers. If you've got any questions, give us a call. By the way, our depot in Milton Keynes is now the largest in the UK. It's the largest ham radio stock in the UK, and the chances are that if you're looking for something, we've probably got it. You'd be most welcome to call in and see us. We're close to the M1, so it's very easy to get to. We're pretty centrally located, and if you're in that area at any one time, pop in and see us. Also, thank you for your support on this YouTube channel. It's most appreciated. It's gradually growing by the month, and if you haven't subscribed, press the subscribe button. It doesn't involve any cost at all. It just indicates to us whether or not we're doing the right thing. And also, of course, thank you for your support, as I say, in the shop at Milton Keynes or on the internet on our website. There we are, another video over. Thanks for your support. You enjoy your ham radio, you take care, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye for now.